Oh, we're on.
We're live.
We're
Hello.
on. Hey guys,
Episode.
episode 53 of the MuseCast. I took your thunder. You say it.
No, I'm signing it for the people.
Thank you. Yeah, you're going to do sign language this whole episode. This is actually a fun episode because we're finally actually going to give a release date to the music video that we're going to be putting out next week. It's actually happening that
That's right.
fast.
That's right.
And we've even got a teaser for it. Very small little taste right here.
Was it good? Was it good? I haven't seen it yet. You
Yeah.
guys saw it. You guys saw it. I haven't seen it.
I haven't made the teaser yet, so we actually paused and then I'm going to insert it and then re-upload the episode. So anyway, I'll make something. I think I have an idea of what I'm going to make and that you guys just now saw.
Yeah, that's how we roll, guys. Fly by the seat of our pants. We're talking about things we're going to do while we're doing things that we're talking about doing.
That's how we do it. And that's why we're so successful with this.
Right. That is right.
So as you can see in the teaser, though, the thing that we do know, even though I haven't made it yet, is that October 17th, next Thursday, is when we're actually going to put out the music video for Disco Nightmare. That is the name of the song. And as you can see in it, it features the singer from Your Captain Speaking, Russ Skinner, who's an awesome guy, a great singer that we've known for a long ass time. We used to play shows back with other bands that he was in when we were in different bands, not together. Way back at Floyd's, like we're literally at this point talking. Are we talking like 15 years ago? 20 years ago? wait. No, like 15 years ago. Right?
Close to 20, man. Yeah,
Jesus
close to
Christ.
20. It's been like 18. Let's call it 18.
18 years ago.
When Russ was in the band Sinister Nasty, otherwise known as Snasty, was when I met him. He was also working at the Guitar Center in
Working with
Tallahassee.
my drummer of Kill Clouseau, Nils Mann. He was our drummer most
Yeah.
of the life of Kill Clouseau. He wasn't our drummer at the end, but and they knew each other, and then I met Russ pretty at the shows, but also through Nils a bit because Nils was working with Matt Guitar Center, which was a brand new store. Dude, Guitar Center had only been there for a year or two at that time, I think.
Yeah, it was super rad. And that was like one of the all-star guitar store lineups, man, because you had Russ was working there, Nils was working there, Joe Demerit, who was the bass player for Sinister Nasty, previously the bass player for the Sui Generis, then changed their name to
Yeah.
Seeking Sui. Then he moved to Texas and he was in a touring band called, I think, something about Surrounded by Monsters. I want to say was
You're
the name
right.
of
It
the
is
band.
something like that. And then he's got something else now that sounds like
Yeah.
it's just instrumental. And what's the name of that project?
Great. Oh man. Dude, if you hadn't asked me, I should have been prepared. But it's just him and a drummer who made an album. It's just bass and
Yeah.
drums. And
Yeah,
of
it's
course,
literally just bass and
it's
drums.
so good. And
It's
it's
cool
just
though,
so
yeah.
good. It's really fun.
Yeah.
I'll look for it. We'll post it.
And Russ, in Your Captain Speaking, they're still together as far as I understand. They're just not that active at the moment. I don't know exactly where they stand, but I think that Your Captain Speaking, well, I don't think Your Captain Speaking has their album out on Spotify now. You can look them up and check out some of his content. And furthermore, just to mention it, if for any reason you're here because of me and you don't know Dick's other projects, but Fighting Giants, me and Dick, there's a visual EP that we made together that is a 20-minute long film. It was kind of like the beginning. I mean, they have their full album on Spotify, and then we also made a visual EP that features multiple songs from that album. And it's kind of like the first test run of us of a Cue the Muses type thing. It was like a short film / album visual EP thing. And then
It
Cue the
really was.
Muses was like, let's just keep. What if we expanded that?
Yeah.
Because I was so into this idea of making a visual EP, but I wanted to do a full album, and Cue the Muses is that attempt.
Well,
So
and another fun fact with that Fighting Giants visual EP, there was a loose plot point that was going to be a crossover with music videos from the Defy the Tyrant video that you did previously before the Fighting Giants video, which Defy the Tyrant had a video for their song Fighting Gravity,
Yeah.
that Kurt Rogers sings for Defy the Tyrant. And the character in the video is played by my girlfriend Amber. And at the very end of the Fighting Giants EP, there's a scene, it's the cliffhanger where she's there, same mask from the Defy the Tyrant video, like same character, same outfit, and she's like the big bad. Like
Yeah.
in the Fighting Giants EP, we're kind of like fighting a guy, Rob, the strategist, who's our friend, but we're trying, like, there was an accident, he killed Kurt, there's a whole thing. Watching,
And he's in Cue the Muses.
and he's also in Cue the Muses.
He's the
Yeah,
first
Rob.
mind we go into in episode or chapter 1. So
Yeah.
it's all intermingled and so fun, and reusing same cast and a bunch of band guys in Tallahassee, just cross-pollinating into this weird little, video universe or film universe that we've been trying to make. And if for any reason you haven't seen the visual EP of Fighting Giants, it's really fun, guys. You can look it up on YouTube now, just Fighting Giants visual EP. And Defy the Tyrant's music video was the first thing that we made, and that's where you could watch that first. That's just the music video, pretty much. And that video came out pretty awesome. That was actually the first video that we filmed. The only other thing I filmed out here on my property, or part of the music video was filmed out here on my property, was Cue the Muses stuff, and that's it. So I really reserved that for friends and bandmates that I used to play, on the stage with, not in their band, but like we would share the stage on the same night in the bands and stuff. And so it was so cool to finally kind of like really get to know you guys, because you guys were all like tight with each other. And, I like kind of knew you guys from the shows, but we really didn't know each other that well at all yet. And so that was the first endeavor, to like meet each other, learn each other. Hey, I want your girlfriend in this video. She's going to shoot a gun. You have a gun? Great. And you're like, yeah, I just want to be there when she shoots it. Okay. And I'm like, that's awesome, because I've never owned a gun. I don't know anything about guns.
Yeah.
I feel a lot better if you would come.
I remember that was kind of like my in. I was like, oh man, like Kurt's band's doing the music video with Ash. Finally, they were the first ones. Kurt and I had talked about it for years. I mean, literally years, ever since the barbecue where you were out there, we were doing cartwheels with the paper mache banana.
For the Kill Clouseau Trace music video, my old band of a decade. Yeah,
we always talked about, man, we need to do a music video with Ash. It was like was like that was the apex of the pyramid, And then Kurt's
and
band,
here we are, man. That's so crazy.
Kurt's band did it first. I was like, oh man, damn it, you got it first. That's awesome. No, I just want to like be there. And then it was super fun. Yeah. And now, however many years later, 6 or 5 or something, now you and I are looking at releasing our 3rd music video together.
Yeah,
in
man.
our project. And
I'm really excited about this one too. And again, it ties together with a singer that we used to, that played in other bands on the stage. It's just so, what a cool like culmination of a life experience, all mashed together into this thing at this stage in our lives. Is really cool. So I'm excited about the song coming out. But so, and also not that we're not going to spend the whole episode talking about this, guys, but just to make one more announcement on this. So the album, what we're doing is we had pulled our 2 songs off that we've released in the first 2 episodes. We pulled those off of Spotify like a year ago, because we wanted, kind of a long story why we did that. Won't go into it. Now we are about to put them back on with the new song, and we're putting the 3 instrumental versions of all 3 songs with it, and we're putting it basically as a small album. So it's a 6-song experience. You got all the vocal versions and then all the instrumental versions. We're calling that part 1, and that comes out the same day next week, hopefully, on Thursday, October 17th. So we'll put a link up where you can pre-save that if you're curious about just being notified. So it's in your library already. When you go to Spotify, you'll be able to see that it's already come out, and you can just click on it and listen to it that way. And I mean, as much as I want you guys to see the music video for re-listening purposes, like we were talking about before this podcast,
Mhm.
Dick, you had pointed out like that you really want to re-listen to the music a lot without necessarily watching a video. And I totally agree. The music should stand up on its own, and I think it's fun to listen to without just visuals. So, yeah,
Yeah,
so it'll be on Spotify as well.
I think people are going to like it for sure. And the music video personally for me with other people's stuff, other bands and musicians and their stuff, I like their music. The video either makes it even better, or the video is like, oh yeah, whatever. I like the song. I don't want to watch the video. I
Agreed.
really feel like the videos for these are going to kind of push it over that next limit for people. Like hear the song, like the song, don't like the song, watch the video. It might make you like the song more because the videos are so fun.
I think so. They're
Especially this.
heavy on the performance,
Yeah.
and that's why. So I feel like you can just getting a better sense of what's happening in the music, especially seeing Tim on drums, man. I mean,
Mhm.
I just think he's so entertaining to see play. I mean, he is so good on
Like,
drums, man. He took our music to this new level when he came on to us, like, and we knew that we needed that. We knew we needed good drums, otherwise it was just going to be kind of like this music was different enough that it needed a really good drummer, somebody that could actually be on
yeah.
top of the music at times, not just backbeat. And absolutely, Tim knew when to ride back, but
Mhm.
did a lot of stuff, especially in this song. I think that is like, whoa,
This
I
was
love
the
it.
this was like the one in the studio. He got to a point and then wrapped up the rest of the song. And I remember the engineer's wife came in from the other side. Their house was over there. She was like, I just had to come in here. What was that? What even was that? Like, and they have a history. She knows Timbo really well. She was like, that was
Yeah,
amazing. I was like, that was
yeah,
incredible. I
it
was watching.
was.
There was a video the other day that I saw that actually Michael, the guy who helped us with this video shoot, I can't
Michael
remember his last
Mitchell.
name. Yeah, Michael Mitchell. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Michael
Thank you,
Mitchell.
Michael Mitchell, again and again and again. You were like so invaluable on those
Yeah,
first couple of music videos that we filmed. It was so helpful having you, man. Can't
one
thank
of
you
my
enough.
one of my favorite people, dude. Mike, you're awesome if you're listening. If you don't know Michael, you should. He posted a video of um Will Hunt Evanescence playing with Evanescence, like some sold out show. The photos behind or the videos behind Will, and he's just playing. And Mike's caption was so funny. He's like, "You pretty good, Will. If you just hit the drums a little bit harder, you'd be doing all right." And I mean, Will just like wailing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
watching him and playing and having had played with Timbo and watching Timbo, it's like, man, that same level, dude.
Hmm.
It's like
Hmm.
that's what kind of drummer Tim is. I feel like he's under a lot of people's radar. Like he's not a Will Hunt name, but
Yeah, yeah.
he should be
He
100%.
should be. Yeah, sometimes when you're around a musician, it's like there's this undeniable like skill level that just makes you realize like, oh yeah, there really is levels to this, and it's like
Yeah.
and it's like I'll feel like so good about my guitar playing at times and super confident. And then I'll be around somebody that's just literally just gone to that next frontier. They've crossed through the dimension, the threshold of like, wow, you can play good to like just undeniably this is what is capable on this instrument kind of
Mhm.
person. Right? And
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
that's Tim. And in my old band Kill Clouseau, it was the keyboard player. I mean, we all agreed among us that the keyboard player that we had was kind of too good. He would not ride back that much because he was like he'd get bored playing anything too simple. So it's like a little bit too fluttery at times. We'd have to bring him back down. Like, dude, it's amazing you can play that, but if you could just ride back a little bit here, I think the vocals should be like kind of the forefront on this part.
Yeah, I think maybe in the beginning of the chorus, it should probably be mostly vocals right there.
Yeah, it's like
I
not
guess I,
constant runs.
I can imagine it's like, what are you guys talking about? No.
Yeah, dude. He's like, his bringing it down a notch was pulling out like one note. It's like out of like 1,000 in a run. Like, okay. But yeah,
Yeah.
fun stuff, man. I can't wait for the video to come out, and it's coming out so soon. And in fact, this is all kind of a little bit more jammed together than I think we originally planned because the hurricanes, we had Hurricane Helene. Well, first it was Hurricane Debbie, then it was Hurricane Helene. Now you just went through Hurricane Milton there, and it's kind of like everybody running around, evacuating, coming back. It's been a weird time to try and put out anything and also organize like I mean, who gives a crap about our song coming up if you're evacuating your house?
Yeah,
You
last
know, to
the
get
the
out of
last
Dodge.
thing anybody's worried about. West Coast hammered.
Yeah.
Some of the East Coast, the tornadoes, because the whips on the outside of the storm whip tornadoes. Thankfully, they're
Yes.
all much further south from me. You know, that tornado comes in and it's got that long outer band. That's where the tornadoes come. Sorry, the hurricane comes
Hmm.
in. Outer band tornadoes. My boss lives in Fort Myers and 12 inches of water on the first floor of his condo.
Damn.
Thankfully, the first floor of his condo is just the garage and the laundry room.
Oh,
But
that's good.
yeah. So we're all talking. This is a group text, the work group text, and some of us, the rest of us all live over here. I stayed. Another guy stayed who lives on Merritt Island. He's like a lot closer to the water. I'm close to the river, the Indian River, which is the inlet between the outer island. There's two of them. There's the Indian River. There's Florida. Then there's the Indian River, and then Merritt Island, then the Banana River, and then the outer bank, which is where Port Canaveral and Cocoa Beach and all that is. So like he stayed. Another guy, the other two people live in Satellite Beach. One stayed, one left. They were fine. No flooding over there, so to speak. There's some areas, I got up this morning. It was stayed up late. Nothing really happened till about 6 in the morning. I fell asleep around 3 and woke up at 6, and the wind was finally there. The eye was passing over, and the eye wall just literally passed right over our house. Went outside, really whipping, category 1 stuff. If that was in the frame, it would have been perfect. Blowing sideways. But, really, really lucky here. No damage to the house, the property. I will say we have a lot of water. Walking out to the studio while standing outside. You've been here, standing
Hmm.
outside, opening that roll-up door. I'm in ankle deep water.
Whoa.
Like if I was wearing shoes, my socks and everything would have been soaking wet, but I came out here in my
Yeah.
flip-flops and my bare feet.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, like the neighbor's fence blew down. Mine didn't blow down. The neighbor's did, but it's like really run of the mill category 1 kind of stuff.
By
So
the time it got to you guys and where you were at,
yeah,
it like,
we're on the East Coast. There's 180 miles of land between us and Tampa Bay and the West Coast. So I mean, people from out of state, I had a lot of family in Oregon, like really concerned, like, are you guys okay? You evacuated, right? No. Like, hey, listen. I understand it's a big scary thing on the news, and you have to know that it's hitting the West Coast, and
mhm.
that's where the bad stuff is going to be on the West Coast. But hurricanes lose their steam tremendously quick as they move inland. It'll hit as a category 4. By the time it gets to 100, 200 miles in, it's down to a 1 or a tropical storm. But the tornadoes are still like the offshoot tornadoes
Yeah.
are still
Well,
the
and then you get the craziness that happened with Helene and it going all the way up to the
yeah,
Carolinas. And
the
I mean,
aftermath.
that was like,
The rain.
that's crazy. I mean, that is not
This
typical at all.
the scariest thing in Florida and anywhere to me is the storm surge and the flooding. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
North Carolina wasn't ready for all that water. I was
Yeah.
concerned. I have what's called a rotary laser. We use it at work. It's for shooting elevations. Basically, it's a tripod, has a laser that shoots perfectly level line, and then you get a little receiver on the other end attached to a stick, and you use that stick, and you can I took the water level at the road where the water level was, because it was creeping up high. Like my son was worried it was coming up towards the house. And I said, well, let's shoot some elevations. We shot the water level where it was, and then we shot the house, and there was about 14 inches of difference. So I shot the crown in the road out front because the water was creeping up and the road was almost flooded. So I shot the crown of the road, and I said, okay, the crown of the road is 8 inches below our house. So if we see it get over the road. We know we have 8 inches. It has to rain. That's a big area, 8 inches. I mean, it's a lot. So then I went and I shot the sidewalk.
8 inches is big.
Is very big,
You can do
ladies.
a lot with 8 inches.
And then we shot one more shot, and like we made a little mark on the sidewalk. So okay, if the water gets here, we only have 3 inches until it gets to the house. And at that point, we need to start really making provisions. I went ahead, I moved some stuff upstairs. All of the instruments in the house went upstairs. The safe went upstairs, the stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
important stuff. But it never did. It never got any higher than it was when I shot it, because the rain was ahead of the hurricane. And then when the hurricane actually came through, it's like the wind blows and it's raining, but it's really not a lot of rain.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain.
Yeah.
You've been through them. It's like it's more just wind and some damp air.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And we were super lucky. I mean, we didn't even have rain, basically. I mean, it was
Yeah.
super mellow. I was like, oh, thank goodness, because I was getting burnt out on having to move my office around. When with data and these long running projects, it's on, we're talking about terabytes and terabytes, and I mean, tens of terabytes. And, if that's why I have to keep half of that, everything's mirrored. I keep some of it here and I keep some of it at my house in case, God forbid, one of the buildings goes down. I still have everyone's year-long projects that we've been working on, or multi-year footage libraries that we've been building up that we use as a resource for every project that we do that's new. We need that B-roll from, hey, we already shot something like this and we did that setup, so we could use that in this. So, and it takes a while, I moved everything away from the windows when Helene was coming, just in case, because it was supposed to be a category 4 hitting us directly is what was going to happen. I was like, I'm not having my computer right next to the window. I'll at least move it into the other building. And, I felt like I had some safe zones now that the trees came down during Debbie. At least I didn't have those trees over anymore. So
I felt like the reporting agencies, because everyone was so upset after Michael, they posthumously declared Michael a stronger storm than they advertised before it hit. You remember that?
No,
that was
not really.
Michael came through and it was west of us. That's the one that hit between.
I definitely remember Michael. I mean, I went out and actually filmed for a company out of DC, I think, that hired me to go get storm footage in Panama City.
Oh, wow.
2 days after the storm, and we had to be escorted everywhere we went with all the power lines down, the sewers leaking everywhere. And
yeah,
it was bad.
And the insult to injury was after Michael came and destroyed and left and was gone, they posthumously said that it was a category 5 rather than a 4 or something. It was like, I'd never seen anybody do that. Like, oh, whoops, we're wrong. So it's like it is what it is. And I know that the media doesn't want to do that again. So I think they were definitely letting everyone know on the air of stronger rather than weaker. In
every legal way, they have to do that.
Yeah,
because
they can't win. They can't win.
No, they can't win. And it's like, if it's just, they don't want to be liable for deaths, and the governor didn't say it was serious enough, and blah, 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 blah. And there's the ratings issue, and there's the reality that these storms can actually be of that magnitude. So it's just a hard thing to weigh out and take the risk of. And it just depends on where it's going, how long you've lived in the place to guess how you think the weather patterns work for your place, how strong is your structure that you're staying in, all that.
You have to do a lot of critical thinking and make judgment calls on what your best plan of action is. Not everybody can just pack up and drive 600 miles with their family and their dogs, and maybe they don't have anywhere to go. But I will say the governor handled this pretty well this time around. I'm not really a political person, but I heard a lot of his press conferences he was holding before and after this morning. I mean, I think he did a great job. He held a nice, calm tone through the whole thing, and everything he was saying wasn't any kind of fear mongering nonsense.
Yeah,
all very factual, very matter of fact type of.
I agree. Same with Helene. I think he was like pretty. I don't want to get political, and I'm just solely on the basis of exactly this specific thing and everything, I thought he handled both storms pretty well, was pretty measured, pretty informative, and I think that he put some pretty good provisions in place to help manage what was going to be a large power losses, massive amounts of debris and stuff like that, you know.
Yep.
So
Allocating forces and the he was really detailed with shelter information and numbers
yeah,
and
yeah,
how many spaces were there and just the way I think he did a good job.
yeah,
Like him or not like him, I don't really have an opinion in one way or the
yeah,
other. It's just it is what it is. But you
yeah.
know, I think he did a good job.
I know. I'm always trying to avoid politics with a
Yeah,
10-foot pole on. The thing is, I follow so much with politics and have so many opinions, which is why I don't want to get into it on social. So,
oh yeah.
anyway, in
Everybody
other,
pisses off somebody. I promise you.
I would absolutely, you know, and it's like the thing is, here's the thing about, and I'll just say this about politics because it's very generalized. I don't want to die on a hill defending any singular politician because none of them do everything I agree with. So it's like
No.
you marry yourself to one because they've done some things that you like, and inevitably they're going to do something and like, you like that guy and why are you defending it? Like it's like no, it's like this specific thing I would agree with, this specific thing I'd agree, and it just gets way too complicated. I don't want to be responsible and have to like defend everything somebody does that I overall think is a good pick for something.
Yeah,
You know?
that's why we have elections and terms. You
Yeah.
know, it's like okay,
Well, I'll definitely.
you
This election's important too because we get to vote on legalizing marijuana here in Florida, and I am definitely voting in favor of that. I will politically state that to the out. I'm definitely going to vote in favor of that.
I politically state that I support the legalization of marijuana, and I don't like marijuana that much. You know,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
not
not
a
a
big,
huge
I'm not
marijuana
a big fan,
user.
but I will say that the bad thing is there's a lot of people in prison, and we can't
Yeah,
go down this rabbit hole.
yeah, this is going to turn into
There's been
something.
a lot of really ridiculous stuff with that, and if we could just legalize it and be done with all that forever, and whatever
Yeah,
amends we need to do, let's do it.
yeah.
Pro
I
pro legalizing the weeds.
I agree. And one other thing I'll throw into that as a reason is, you know, if you're buying illegal pot, there's a high probability that it has been covered in poison, basically, to grow it at exponential rates, you know, so they can get massive harvest. And that stuff is like absolutely toxic for your body. So just the legalization of it alone, just so people aren't breathing in, you know, they're going to smoke pot regardless. And to be smoking in chemical latent, you know, pot, just that's terrible. Like, let's just get that out of the equation
Yeah.
and give people like actual just pot to smoke if they want to smoke it. All right, done on that political front. Now, we talked about the album. We talked about Hurricane Milton. I wanted to mention two things. One thing that's about stuff that I'm also doing outside of this that I think, and one thing about your thing. So
My thing.
you had played for me Dave's Last Night songs when I
Yeah.
was there, and from the King Crimson show. And you had pulled out, like, I was in the studio sitting right on that couch behind you, and you were playing a bunch of the mixes and where they were at. And I realized, like, for about 10 days, there was one song I couldn't get out of my head.
Really?
Yeah, and I was like, fuck, that is a good one, man. And now I'm like mixing it up in my head because I can't reference the album, which one it is, but I almost want to say that the hook that I couldn't get out of my head was the one. Oh, it is the one. It is the one where you're playing the recorder. Is that in threes?
The acoustic one, yeah, in threes.
Yeah, in threes. Look,
Yep.
I liked a lot of what you played, but I'm just being honest, that one, for whatever reason, I couldn't get it out of my head. So I wanted you to know that there's a major hook in that, you know, with what Tim's doing that is really powerful, emotional, and it's like, that's really good stuff. It reminded me, you know, it doesn't sound anything like it, but I get the same vibe as Call to the Butterfly from Acid Bath. Or Scream of the Butterfly,
Yeah.
which was that was the song that got me into Acid Bath.
Totally. That's a really good compliment, but thanks. The idea of that song is it was in it's called In Threes because that's the working title that I had. It was just a guitar part, and I recorded the guitar parts for that when I lived up there in Crawfordville, in the studio I had there. So then I had it, and I had it forever. And I sent, that's a song that I actually had sent over the years to a couple of different people to do something with. At one point, I think that song is so old. At one point, I think Fighting Giants, I sent it to Jeff Withers, the guitar player for Fighting Giants, to actually see if he wanted to write anything to it. And we didn't do anything with it. Then it sat on the back burner. And then Tim, when we weren't in a band together, but he was going to his overseas tour, the year and a day he spent with the Army Reserves in the desert. We were going to write music back and forth, and I sent him some tracks. That was one of them. And he wrote that. He wrote the words while he was deployed out in the desert in his bunk in the night, wherever he was, in a tent or the bunk, or I don't know, he's all sorts of places he was at. And that's where he wrote it. And he wrote it in his head without really singing it, like humming it, So we had that song when he got back. Then when we did the band, that was a song that we said, okay, we're going to track this and put the vocals down to it. And there was a disagreement between him and basically me and the rest of the listeners that were in the critique circle. And that was the amount of effects on his voice. He wanted his voice to be buried behind some effects to sound haunting and dreamlike and ethereal. And myself, Kurt Rogers was another one I sent to. Kurt made the really, really the really blunt, comment that Tim's vocals need to be dry and up front, and you need the forefront. That is what needs to be in the front, and nothing, no effects on the guitars. And that's what I did. I pulled basically almost all of them out of his voice, where it's just kind of dry up front, and it sounds like he's just in the room. And that's a fun one.
Yeah, and the mix itself sounds fantastic too. So I mean, you talking about how you approach the mix is important. It's a great song, and it's got a great mix, and it's it got stuck in my head. And again, I liked everything that I heard. I think all of it has a pretty original sound, and I really like that. I mean, it goes a lot of places.
We did the whistle in there. I put a whistle in there.
You did in that one. Yeah. Was it a straight whistle or was it the recorder?
No, so throughout the song, it's always a whistle. It's always, it's literally me whistling. I can't remember the tone of it. Like that. And my mind was going to old Western movies,
Well, that's what it does. And I love it. It's just this weird it makes it haunting. In fact, it brings in a little bit, it does have a Western element, Old West. And that's exactly what we were talking about in our last podcast, about how old ass music can bring you back to this moment in time. It's like a whole generation. So you got this, we're talking about a 5%, maybe even 3% drop, just a little taste of it among the whole thing that's very modern feeling, but also just different. It's a not weird, but it's a unusual, I guess that's weird, melody that Tim chose to go with. And that's what I like about it, because then it's that's the original flavor. The melody is very haunting. It doesn't need the effects to be haunting, because it already is haunting based on the melody that the way he's singing it. So and he kind of played into the working title a little bit in the lyrics, because he actually, I sent him a track that was guitars, and the name of it was In Threes. And I did that. I named it In Threes because the pattern I'm playing is kind of a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, do, 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 1, 2. It keeps coming back to the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And that's how I was just okay, In Threes. Okay, that's the name of the working title. And he leaned into it, and it's in he actually says In Threes at one point in the song. And I didn't even think about the time signature being that. It's funny that I gravitate to that, because the majority of things that I write are in 3 or 6. And so I'm like, that's a good one, man. All right, we've talked about this so many times. 3 and 6 is usually the most common I write in that way more than 4. So,
Weirdo.
I know. And then I'm like, oh, that one's good. It sounds original. Anyway, it
13
doesn't
is
sound
where
anything like me. I mean, it's just,
13 is
but
where I
it's just,
draw the line, my
there's
man.
something about 3 and 6 that sounds like rhythmic to my, I don't know if it's like the beat of my heart or what, but there's some connection there that just drives it home for me.
I love it. I like. We're gonna be going through a phase soon where we're writing again, and where you and I are writing again. We've
Yeah.
talked about
Yes.
this. Like
Yes.
it isn't quite there. It's coming.
Yeah.
There's a really short moment that we had where we were hanging out here the morning after the King Crimson show, where we
Yeah.
kind of played a little bit of acoustic guitar stuff. I think we only
Hmm.
jammed for like 15 or 20 minutes, but
And already we're starting to have something.
it was
Right.
like going down all those fun avenues,
Hmm.
and especially how we're detached again. We were detached writing the Cue the Muses stuff through COVID, so we were kind of writing remote. We're a little bit here, a little bit your place, a little bit my place, get together, work through ideas. And that's kind of how I see this happening again, even more
Yeah.
extreme. But we
Yeah.
have better setups where we can have like these kind of virtual discussions too.
That's right. That's right. And I'll be able to, the part of the holdup is wrapping up the Cue the Muse stuff, getting a couple of things set up here in my little studio, and so I can start sending you some tracks again. And we've also talked about that just to get to make more music, that maybe the next set of music doesn't necessarily, maybe we'll just pick out like one song to do a video for or something. I want to keep doing Cue the Muses straight up as is, but I also don't want to only get to do it if we make like massive year-long per episode
Yeah,
episodes. So
releasing one 10-minute song a year is
it's
cool.
a little hard.
It's
It's a little
tough,
hard. Yeah.
especially the sheer amount, like there we're so just to say it, like you already said it, but just to say it again, the future releases of Cue the Muses you will get to hear more in a release than one a year. So
Yeah.
we'll be writing music, we'll be recording music. It'll be the same principle. It just we're not going to be able to sit on everything for without funding, right?
That's
I mean,
it. That's kind of
that's
it. I
bottom
mean,
line.
I think we might be able to pick out like one if we wrote, and then make some video content and story extension of that independently just because I want to do it as an artist. But it literally, next year is actually making the final chapter of this album, to release the final stuff from the Cue the Muses that we've already recorded that we're so proud. I mean, those last two. The last episode has 2 songs in it, guys. I mean, that's the last chapter is going to have 2 songs. It's going to be like the most massive episode, and both songs we've been sitting on for 2 years.
Years.
They're
two of the
huge,
best.
awesome songs, man. Yeah, it's like
One of the 2 was the first ones that vocals were laid on. And
yeah,
set the bar, and I was like, and I'm not going to give away who it is, but
yeah.
when I heard it back, and I was like, oh man, like another level kind of stuff. Like,
Well, I
man,
mean, guys, if you really want to crack the code on who these singers, just look at the poster. Go to the website, cuethemusic.com. Just look, all the singers are listed there. You can see who's left. So
yeah.
it's these. It's some heavy hitters. I mean, everyone on here is a heavy hitter vocally. So it's exciting. But yeah, so if it's a double music video episode, yeah, and all the story stuff that's in there. I mean, that's going to be the whole year. That's my pet project artistically in Videoland, is
Mhm.
making the last chapter of Cue the Muses. And hopefully it'll come out around maybe close to this time next year, but we might write some more music in the meantime and have, that's a different process, and just work on the audio and think about the year after that for maybe another video. If I do one a year, that's probably the max without funding. It just takes so many hours,
Takes so much. And now, like, we finished the physical filming. I love it. I mean,
Yes.
because I can help. Like,
Yeah.
and that whole process. We started it when I still lived there. We finished when it's not finished still. I think we still have something to film.
There's, yeah, we got like, I got 3 to 4 days of filming that we'll have to do next year to wrap up the entire album slash season
Yeah.
of mini series experience, whatever way we want to call it. Yeah.
And traveling. And now but the sky's the limit with future music releases. And
Yes. Yeah.
one of the things that I want to push for, and I'll go ahead and say it on the podcast, is to get Rob vocally on one of these tracks, because Rob has been, he doesn't sing anymore in a band. He's not performing. He wants to. He's very busy. He's writing. He sent me a excerpt from something that he's writing. He's working on 950 words. He sent it to me last night, and I read it a couple of times, and I gave him some friend notes, like thoughts, critiques, compliments.
Burn it all.
Mostly garbage. no, Rob I was like, please finish this. And I can tell you, I'll send you the image of Fry, shut up and take my money, because it's absolutely something I want to read.
Awesome. Now this is going to be for a book or a graphic novel?
Yeah, this is a book
or
that he's writing.
script?
It could be, it's very, very sci-fi, sci-fi / anime style. Kind of like the picture it put in my head was like, kind of like Ghost in the Shell type of vibe is what I was kind of picking up from it, mixed with some Guillermo del Toro like vibes, like real like creature-esque type. I can't say anything else, but
sounds like it sucks.
I know, it's really dumb, but
sounds boring as hell.
We got to get him on a track, because he's been in all these projects, all these music videos with us as a character and as an actor. And we haven't even, he hasn't tapped into the actual powerhouse. As a vocalist.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, we can totally do that. And I'd like to get potentially, we'll have to figure all this out next year, but I'd like to everyone that participated in the first go to get to sing again on a second song. I mean, how funny is that? Like, everyone did such a good job. It's like, all right, everyone got to sing on one song. So, I mean, I feel like,
and one of them was a cameo, so some of them were going to sing on half a song.
Right, totally. So, I mean, if we hear them on a second song, I think there's all the room in the world for it still to sound so different, because these vocalists, have different sounds. They can get different based on the song that they're presented with. So,
and there's more talented vocalists in Tallahassee too. Like we didn't even
that's the other thing.
We didn't even hit the full gamut of there's a lot of talent in that.
Well, and we've said it, it'd be unreal if we could get a couple, even one, but if we could get a couple of more well-known on label potentially vocalists to sing on a couple of the songs that we put out. I mean, that's good for everyone involved in this project, because that's exposure. That's somebody that's going to bring a whole fan base to check out what we've got going on. And I really feel like that's the missing link for so many talented bands, is just the opportunity for people to know that they exist and hear it, and I've found so much stuff that I can't believe that they don't have large fan bases, that I'm like, man, this is top notch. This is all the way there. It's a killer album. It's not just a one-hit wonder. And, they have, I mean, there's no way they're doing this for a living. That's for sure. I mean, you look at the numbers that they have.
Yeah, it's so tough. Like, it's getting harder and harder for people to do it for a living. It's like, it's not a living almost anymore, but there's still no reason to not keep doing it, because it's awesome.
I mean, come on. It's the funnest thing. I feel like it's, if something's, I still feel like it's worth doing regardless of its financial or monetary success, because it's fulfilling as an art form. It's fulfilling for your soul. It's like, what else are you going to do? Here's the thing. Nobody that I've made music with regrets having taken the time to make the music, regardless of the monetary or exposure outcome at the end of it. Like, so we did two albums and an EP in Kill Clouseau. Nobody in that band regrets having made those recordings. Nobody. You know, put in all the time and tried to. No, that is a treasure for the rest of our lives that we'll be able to show
Yeah,
and
man.
hand down. You know, like I couldn't imagine if I could listen to my grandfather he recorded an album. I'd love to hear it and like, oh wow, it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
really good.
The
Or
regret,
man,
the regret is when you don't do it. The regret is when you have
absolutely.
a group that is awesome and you don't record anything. And then it's
And there's
then when
so
it's
many
gone, it's
bands that
gone.
did that. I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I know. Just bite the bullet and pay for it and get some decent recordings or learn how to do it yourself. The worst thing is the songs that you had that never got recorded. And there was like in Kill Clouseau, you know, there were like another at least 7 or 8 songs that we had that were wow. I mean, and we don't have any form of recordings of them because we were
Mhm.
working towards potentially doing it professionally again. And it just didn't, you know, we didn't get that far. Things kind of petered out with a whole lot of reasons.
Yeah.
We never broke up, but those songs, I don't even remember how they went, you know, but I remember we were hitting a new level. We were playing stuff that was like, this is like I
Mhm.
dreamed about being able to play stuff that was this like technical and went this many places. When we were getting so tight. We'd been
Yeah.
together for 10 plus years as one pr- pretty much one unit. We'd changed out drums a couple of times,
Mhm.
but the amount of practice that we were putting in, there was a tightness that was happening. It was like, wow, we're like this is a thing. Like when we
Yeah.
it's
When you
evident that we're practicing all the time when we go
you
play
hit
out.
you hit that like togetherness button. You hit that
Yes.
togetherness level that you can't deny it when you perform. And
Yeah.
when you're watching a band perform, like you just can't deny that that level's there. And it's really, really fun to watch bands that do that in a groove together and they
Yeah.
flow. And you guys did it. And I'm glad you guys recorded what you did because,
Me too.
Kyron, my son, grew up and one of his, I think last year, his top played song on Spotify was a Kill Clouseau song.
Oh, it was this top one?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
amazing. God.
it was, and he loves it. And the same thing when I was in the group 8060 Earth with some of the same guys that were in the Giants and Dave's last night. It's we recorded that stuff ourselves. We did a 5 or 6 song EP and released it, and it was kind of junk because it was like the first thing I ever did. It was like the first easy drummer like stuff. Like it's really obvious easy drummer. And
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
I recorded everything else. First time doing everything, like first time
Yeah.
doing guitars and releasing something with vocals on it. But I did it. We put it out and it's out on everything. And then last year, cutting a couple of years ago, I did a remaster of everything and I dumped it back out onto YouTube. So
Uh-huh.
all the songs aren't on Spotify. Sorry, all of the songs are on YouTube form,
Okay.
and that I did that, and Kyron latched on one of those songs. Kyron latched onto, and it's his favorite song. He learned how to play
Awesome.
the bass front to back. It's like
Oh wow.
it's a song called Regicide that actually Tim Matthews and Jeff Withers wrote, and we brought it into 86 the Earth.
Oh
But
wow.
the same thing, we talked about Kill Clouseau kind of petering out and you having material that you were actively working on. The same thing was with 86. It was like we had done the EP, but we were still 3 days a week. We would get together Sunday mornings, Sunday morning revival band practice, and
Yeah.
we're just killing it. Bunch of songs, but then it ended
Yeah.
and and they were gone.
Yeah. It hurts. Hurts
Yeah,
a
it
little bit.
sucks. It sucks
But
'cause
the
we were
thing
all
is, like, if it did peter out and you had gotten some form of recordings from it, it wouldn't hurt as bad, right? I mean, like, it's just so
no,
worth it to have a documentation that you can revisit, like, oh yeah, that's what it sounded like, you know?
yeah. And what you said it earlier, like grandpa was in a band. Grandpa was in a
Yeah,
cool band. Look, like not only listen to this, but watch this.
right. Well, that's the whole next frontier. Is like if you have it in a music video form
Yeah.
that's actually legitimately like a really cool music video. I mean, that's so cool, man. I mean, my son's 2 years old, Felix, my other son, and to know that everything that we make now, regardless of ever playing guitar again, which obviously, I mean, he gets to see this, you know, he gets to see this era of
Yeah.
our lives
Yeah.
play out in video form with the sound that we did. And I really feel like, you know, our sound is very, I think, very 90s and early 2000s
I think
personally.
that's a great sound. I think the
I love
90s,
that. That's the
early
sound we
2000s is
grew
it's
up with. And
some
I
of the
think
best.
that's going to be the 70s or the 80s. Like in 20 years, that's a sound that people will like listen to as like that. It'll be like the 70s or like we perceive the 70s or the 80s. It's like a
Yeah.
whole sound that's like nostalgic to like cue up. It'll come back. I mean,
Yeah.
not that it's dead, but I'm just saying
Well, okay,
it'll
so
have that thing that we're talking about, you know?
they'll have it. They'll be able, and we're like the first or second years of the millennial generation. You and me, we're both about the
Uh-huh.
same age, so I think we're both
Yeah.
like the earliest of the millennials. So we grew up as elementary school and middle school, no cell phone, no internet. Internet showed up. You know, we lived before and after the internet, and now
Yeah.
before and after AI as well. And
Yeah.
our kids are growing up, but like Felix is 2, so you had Felix close to 40. My father, I remember when I was little, my dad was 52 when I was born.
Uh-huh.
And I remember like being a little kid and hearing stories and like thinking that my dad had this whole life, that literally this whole life that he
Yeah.
lived before me. And like things he fought in a war in the
Yeah.
50s. In the
Yeah.
1950s, he fought in a war. I was like, and it used to like blow my mind that like there's so much of his life that I didn't know about. And it sadly it still does. Like I know he told me some of the stories, but there's no video from any of that. There's
There's
no,
no, yeah,
yeah,
totally.
dude. It's like how
Dude,
awesome.
that's older than we are now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, our entire life experience, and we still haven't achieved the amount of life your dad lived before he had you.
Before. Yeah.
That is mind
Right.
blowing. Yeah. I mean, and there's no way to recount that in stories being told audibly out of his mouth, you know? And it's like, you can say what you can remember. There's so many things, but it is a unique, cool thing that we're at the first generation that can have this much video and audio documentation that's accessible. You know, audio recordings have been around a long time, but it still was not accessible in the home of any decent magnitude, you know, for people until really, I mean, it's the last 20 years is where the home recording studio has been able to sound like a, you know, nearly a full-fledged, you know, real studio. I mean, it's pretty amazing what and the tools that I'm using on the video end. I mean, I get giddy about it all the time. And when, you know, the red system that I use, just the body of that, when it first came out, just they call it the brain.
Mhm.
You can't even put a media card in it, right? When you first buy the red brain, and just the brain was $50,000. Once you put on all the media cards attachments, so you can put a media card in it, you can put XLR ports on it, you pick the lens mount and all that. It was like an $80,000+ camera system starting, and you know I have it. I didn't pay $80,000 for it, but the point is like it's come down that much, and then now, you know, I still have the red, but then I've got, you know,
got that's the R5, right?
R5C right here, right? And I've rigged it out to this cinema. This is the brand new one because I've already gotten R5C. This is my second one.
Look at
And
that pistol grip. Wait a minute. Look at
Dude,
that.
Isn't that cool, dude?
Is that
So
like
this sits right on your
Como?
thumb.
Yeah.
So your hand goes in it. Oh, here.
That's fancy.
There. So
That's
that like
cool.
thumb. Oh, dude, it feels great. And I mean it's such a great feel. It feels just like a
Yeah.
cinema camera. But my point is that you know this really is just a small mirrorless
Yeah,
camera that's
when you take
this.
when you take all that stuff off, it looks like the camera that hangs around your neck that you
Yes.
snap photos with on the cruise ship.
And that's the camera I'm using right now. It's just another one of these. So I like this camera so much. I got a second one, and it films an 8K RAW, which is more than the red. The red's only 6K RAW. My point is that the democratization of the level of cameras at this point, I'm now this camera competes with the Red and outperforms it spec wise in some regards and can do
Yeah.
things that the other one can't. And you know, you can get a body, one of these bodies right now for like used. I got this guy for $29.50, which is insane. I mean, $2,950. It was 15 hours of use
For the camera.
for the camera.
Okay, sorry. You were talking about the chassis. So
You're right. The chassis part and all the attachments and that was like basically another $1,000.
okay.
So I
but
added all
nowhere
that
near.
shit on there.
So you're still under 5K.
Under
And
5K. And this, and I got this because it's come down in price. Now, when I first bought the R5C 2 years ago, it was $4,500 just for the body, which is still
yeah.
great. But to be able to get the body now for, this was a used one, 15 hours of use, open box, $29.50. Works perfect, flawless, no scratches, nothing. I was like, that's awesome. And to put it in this unit and be able to have it sitting on it, or I can strip it down to that mirrorless. I mean, what a era we live in, dude. It's amazing.
Dude, yeah. And you can, when you strip it down, you can put it on the Ronin, right? You can run it on the Ronin, run it on the gimbal.
Yeah, the
And you
gimbal stuff, car mount system which attaches to the car mount system and everything that I
Yeah.
use to film the cars. And so it's just so versatile, and I can stealth mode. I can go into any place that I shouldn't be filming and just have it paired down to a photography looking camera and be filming an 8K RAW that can compete with the Red Epic Dragon camera that cost $80,000 just 10 years ago, you know? So
Yeah.
it's just the democratization of tools, and that's just video land. It's so similar for audio, you know, what we have access to. So it's just an amazing time. There's really no excuse to not have some form of recording of what you do, what in any art form at this point that's recorded. You know, like, I mean, whether it be like pictures of your paintings or it be, you know, like on an audio level at the bare minimum, come on, an iPhone recording the room. I mean, that alone, we didn't have that. I remember buying a little audio recorder to record band practices, and I was the only one that had something that could record the band practice like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now everybody, you know, even midway into the band, everyone's got a phone and gets their own recording. You know,
and I remember when they started when you record it, you'd have to like put it under a blanket. You know, when the cell phones first came out with the recorders,
yes.
Put it under a blanket, put it in the other room next door. Because if you just did it, it's just.
Yeah.
But now you can take your phone, hit record on it, and just sit it right there in front of everything, and it's still clear. It has like
it still knows.
Automatic compression, automatic leveling. It's got like just magic stuff that happens in there, and it's some like audio recordings have like magic and they're releasable. Like you can you can literally, like, you can, with the right room and the right setup, you can do a single audio source recording from a telephone and you can release it. I mean, you could
run it through some processing and it's pretty amazing, especially if it's just like an acoustic guitar and a little bit of singing, right?
Yeah.
Not that there's a clear difference, but it's like just the idea that it's even possible to have some form of it. But obviously if you can use great mics and record it properly and multi-track and all that.
Yeah, but now I think I'm finding myself more and more fond of older sounding recordings. We talked about this before, you know, the warmer old preamps, mics, audio sources, live drums, like the sound of live drums in a good room. To me, like right now, that's like where my headspace is. Like, I know what Superior Drummer sounds like. I got it. I've released songs with nasty, you know, Superior Drummer stuff that sounds great, sounds so good, but it all sounds like that, you know. And
right.
You can tweak it. I mean, you can get it to sound different. There's different stuff, but that sound of a drummer playing the drums in a good room is like my favorite thing with music, especially, you know, like Tim in a room, John Hoganson in a room, you know, that stuff is just so cool to me.
Absolutely. And I think what's going to happen, and we're approaching our hour, this is kind of a good place to close out on. I think that in the world of AI music generation that's coming our way and how pretty amazing it is how close it can sound to the real deal and all that. I think what will happen is a natural, because everyone will have access to it, everyone will get familiar with the little elements that that sound is. Like you can now hear Superior Drummer in somebody's recordings because you've worked with it. That's going to be everybody with all this AI music. That's the way it is with video effects and things. Like I can spot when certain things have been used or used too much. Every amateur that gets a new tool uses it way too much. You learn how to dial it back. Only 10% of that is needed. You know, that's the
Yeah.
professional way to use it. Or vocal auto tuning would be a perfect example of when it first came out. Like everyone's putting it
Yeah.
on wet, saturated 100%. Then it's like, no, just
Champ.
5% touch here and there. And that's how the pros do it, you know? And I think what we'll naturally feel and learn is like how to hear the human characteristics. Everyone's going to get trained in this naturally by having access to these AI tools, these computer and software tools, so readily available that you'll start getting used to identifying that sound naturally. And when you do, you're immediately going to hear the difference, just like a fine wine. Somebody that likes, you know, a wine connoisseur, you're going to hear the nuances that make something human, and we are going to gravitate to that because no, again, I've said this in the last, you know, episodes. At the end of the day, nobody is inspired by an AI generated thing. You cannot go to it, you cannot meet it, you cannot interact with it, you cannot, it's not something that, oh, one day I want to do that. This is why I want to live my life. It's inspiring. People connect to people doing things.
Yeah.
People are what is inspiring. And that will come through. And I think that it'll be the difference between the AI stuff and the natural human made stuff.
It's the difference between impactful inspiration and amusement. I feel
Yeah.
like I get
Fun
from
stuff
AI,
with AI.
I get fun with, especially with the image generation stuff. It's never anything like, oh wow, that is absolutely beautiful. Like, no, it's always
Right.
like, it's like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, oh, that's
That's cool, man.
funny. That's cool. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
super quick. Yeah, just throw that out there, and you treat it as such. You value it
Right.
as such, right?
Yeah.
It's not the custom piece that you paid an artist, you know, a couple hundred or a couple $1,000 to commission
Yeah.
for you. It's the fun thing in the moment, funny, like how you're not, you know,
Yes.
and you can use it as a tool, but that art form's still not going to go anywhere. That human art.
When you still, and I mean, we were getting tested on this now because the image generation happened before this level of music AI generation. When you see a real painting in front of you, or even an actual photograph, like there is something, the physical one, there's still a magic to it that you're not getting from the AI generated stuff. It's just, there's some disconnect. As cool and awesome and fantastic as it is, it's super neat, but it is so different, the presence of the physical actual painting when you're really seeing it, that you know, you just, because I've been around paintings, I've been around artists still since this has been happening, and it's like, you know what, that still is just as impactful to me, even though I've been saturated with seeing all these AI generated things. It still cuts through. There's something about it. It's like the uncanny valley. You know, they still haven't really nailed CGI stuff, so it feels absolutely 100% human. There's always a giveaway, you know, that it's not. And they've been chasing that for decades. And I'm not saying it won't eventually kind of get there, but at the end of the day, I think that it'll get so good that you can't quite tell. But the way that you'll be able to tell is that for some reason it's not connecting to your soul.
Yeah. And it's the full circle, man.
Yeah.
It's practical props, practical human
Yeah.
ingenuity, and human artistic creativity. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what Cue the Muses is all about.
That's right, man. If we had the ultimate budget, I would want to do Jim Henson style puppets, not CGI.
I want to make a commitment that because I told you I was totally inspired, and this is another
miniatures. I got to watch that documentary. You said. Last thing, you close it out with this. Tell people to go check this out.
Stop motion stuff. Oh, I can't remember the name of it though.
I can't either because you got to tell me so I can go watch
Yeah,
it. You were
yeah.
really inspired by it.
I'll find it again because, but you can look up. It is the stop motion, um, the stop motion studio that did the chess set in Star Wars. That the people who did that branched off and did their own stop motion. It's the same studio that lost the stop motion hire in the film Jurassic Park. They were the ones, and they had a full scene shot stop motion with T-Rex going, and this other team that did this amazing, absolutely amazing CGI dinosaurs made sure that in a meeting that they had that CGI T-Rex that they made walking in their office when they had a meeting with Spielberg and whoever else from there, so that he could see it and say, what the hell is that? I want that. I want that. That's
Yeah.
what happened. That's what I want. Unfortunately, the other guys lost the job, but I'll go ahead because I'm already talking about it. The beautiful thing was they kept the the stop motion animators. They kept them and they made devices that stop motion that read the stop motion armatures that they were manipulating, and they inputted the movements of that into the CGI. So
Wow.
because the artists who made the dinosaurs, they could make a beautiful, realistic CGI dinosaur, but they had no idea how to animate realistic animal movements. That
Uh-huh.
that's where the CGI falls short, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's great, it's cool, but it doesn't quite move right. That's why
Mm-hmm.
Jurassic Park works so well, because all of the animation was the same seasoned stop motion artists manipulating the puppets that communicated to the CGI, and it's their movements, their animal movements that
Right. Right.
translate over. So they kept the studio for both project, the new studio and the stop motion studio, and they continue to do that sometimes to this day. That's a lot of their work, and the stop motion artists had to keep up with the time. Just like now,
Yeah.
you got to learn how to use AI. You got to learn how to use the digital
Right.
world,
Right.
because you're just going to get left in the dust. And that's literally, these guys were the dinosaurs. Like, we're about to be out of a job. How do
Yeah.
and that's how
But they
they,
kind of got it. They ended up with a form of the job and helped it come to fruition the way that they did. And that was the invention, really, of motion capture. It
yeah,
sounds like I haven't gotten to
yeah,
watch the doc yet, but and now you put people or you put motion tracking on animals, and then you put those movements into the characters or animals and creatures and all that.
mhm,
And you wear all the circles and bulbs and stuff for all the motion tracking, and then they put that
yep,
data in. And yeah, it's interesting the evolution that's been there with it, but that they
super.
sound like a part of the forefront. And the last thing about that is that Jurassic Park team, there was somebody on that Jurassic Park VFX team that was very notable,
Very,
Mister
very much so.
Mister Adam Jones from Tool, the guitar player from
Who,
Tool.
who just so happened to be a stop motion artist.
That's right. That's right. Oh man, it all comes back around. So we got to get Adam Jones
Yeah.
in on our next Cue the Muses project just for the animation stuff. Well, we Jones, we got the guitar part covered. We just need you for your
Don't need any musical collaboration whatsoever.
none, no input on that at
Got it
all.
handled. Just come do some puppet stuff. And man, I'm serious. Watch that, because
I will.
with these 3D printers now, I
Yeah.
feel like there is a way to build. We're gonna talk about this. I want to make it a mission, because I get down these rabbit holes on these projects, things that I want to learn how to do, and the stop motion thing is 100% one. I want to make little creatures, I want to make little sets, and I want
Yeah.
to figure out how to do it, and the whole thing. It's just so cool. It's so
Yeah.
I'll never be a master at it, because it's like
Right, right.
but I want to like I want to incorporate at least some into one of our
Cue the
future
Muses, yeah.
projects. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that'd be cool.
with the puppets, like with real
Y-
puppets, like what we like
Yeah.
Henson style puppets.
I love puppet stuff, man. I'm just like I loved Jim Henson stuff growing up. All right.
Yeah,
Guys, thanks for sticking around through this. If you've made it here, and we're really excited about the release coming out this Thursday. So by the time this episode comes out, hopefully on Saturday, we're just talking about 5 days or something before it comes out. So it's a pretty
name.
fast release. Yeah, it's
It's
going to
coming.
be coming at you. Look for it, Disco Nightmare. October 17th. We'll be sharing it everywhere we can. But again, Facebook will not share YouTube links, and that is where it's going to exist predominantly, for a while. So we really want help. If you dug it, please share it, because we cannot get Facebook to share it. And you guys putting it on your page is really the only way people will even know that it exists. And hopefully you dig it. We're excited.
That's why you can't find me on Facebook this week, because I have deactivated my account in order to surprise I'm back with first post in a week of Cue the Muses. And hopefully that will shock the system and let 7 people see it.
Facebook will be like, oh, we want this guy to keep using Facebook, so we'll get his first post will get a lot, and then we won't share it with anybody after that.
Yep. And then I'll have to do it again. Then they'll be like, oh, we got this guy just keeps doing it. We're never going to
this guy sucks.
anything. He's an asshole. He's talking crap. Yeah. Okay.
All right, guys. Take care.
See you later, guys. Thanks for listening. Tune in next week for episode 54.